When a superstar requests a trade, in fact, let me tell you what happens in real time. In real time, I'm on my phone and I see an alert that says Damian Lillard is traded. And the very first thought I had was, okay, well, it finally happened. The Portland Trail Blazers finally traded Damian Lillard to the Miami Heat, seeing as though Miami Heat was the only team that we heard that Damian Lillard wanted to go to. He said it. His agent said it. People out at the Portland organization said it. Miami Heat players said it. Everyone around this situation has said that Damian Lillard wanted to go, and the only place he wanted to go was the Miami Heat, and he would not go anywhere else. So fast forward, when I get the alert saying, hey, Damian Lillard got traded, I'm like, all right, cool. It's not as shocking because we knew it was coming, but we just didn't know when. But then when I opened the alert and when I opened the notification and it said Damian Lillard traded to Milwaukee, I was like, wait a second. Excuse me? Whoa, hold on. You see, what's fascinating about this trade and why I feel, if you don't want to hear it, I understand completely. Again, the timestamps are on the bottom. You can skip to, the football aspect of this show or skip to the next topic. But what is so fascinating about this trade is just how many people and how many teams it affects. The official trade was a 3-team trade. The Milwaukee Bucks received Damian Lillard. The Portland Trail Blazers get DeAndre Ayton, Tormian Kamara. I know I said your name wrong, bro. I apologize. Drew Holiday, a 2029 first-round pick, and 2 first-round pick swaps. The Phoenix Suns received Grayson Allen, Keenan Johnson, Nasir Little, and Yusuf Nurkic. We're going to break down, of course, what this trade means for the Bucks, what this trade means for the Portland Trail Blazers, what this trade means for the Phoenix Suns, and there's one more team that I have to discuss, and we will discuss them last. For the Bucks, you kind of have to tip your hat to Giannis Antetokounmpo because for the last maybe month to 2-3 weeks, Giannis has been on he's been on a very interesting media run. He's been on this run where it's like, hey, I know my value. I know what I stand for. I know how good I am. If this organization, that is the Milwaukee Bucks, does not align with my goals, which is ultimately competing for a championship, of course I have to leave. Of course I would have to go. When you have a player as good as Giannis Antetokounmpo flirting with leaving your organization, I don't know if you guys remember that This Is SportsCenter commercial where they have the alarm going off and you see mascots and former anchors just running all over the place. That is probably what happens in a basketball organization or any sports organization when your star player is pretty much outwardly flirting with other teams. Losing a player like Giannis is almost franchise, and not almost. It's definitely franchise resetting. And you don't believe me? There's been multiple examples in history when the Bulls have not been the Bulls ever since Michael Jordan left. Now, yes, I understand Derrick Rose, he and Jimmy Butler, they had like maybe a 2-3 year run where they were a really good, maybe 4-year run where the Bulls were one of those top teams, but they haven't been to the mountaintop since Michael Jordan. As good as Joel Embiid is, as good as James Harden has been, as good as the Philadelphia 76ers organization looks to be, they haven't been the same since Allen Iverson took them to the NBA Finals. When you lose a player like Giannis of that momentous stature, that is a franchise change. That's a franchise reset. And the Bucks were in no way, shape, or form ready, prepared, or even want to lose a player like that and be in a reset. So they got to work. Now, I don't know the inner workings of how they got Damian Lillard. I don't know how this exactly went down, but what I do know is as we sit here today on a Saturday morning, Damian Lillard has a Milwaukee logo on his chest. So what does this mean for the upcoming future and for this upcoming season? Damian Lillard is, I said this, I did like a quick post as soon as it happened about my initial thoughts. Damian Lillard is one of the greatest point guards we have ever seen. He's one of the greatest scoring point guards we have ever seen in the history of basketball. There's a reason why Damian Lillard, even though he hasn't played for as long as you would think, Damian Lillard landed or is on the NBA 75 team. Damian Lillard is that good of a player. And even with the turmoil that went on last year with Portland and him missing the end of the season, Damian Lillard still averaged, I think, like 32 points a game. You would be foolish to not think that Damian Lillard is one of the greatest shooters of all time. And even with everything that went on with him in Portland last year and this offseason, Damian Lillard is still one of the best point guards in basketball. And what has been one of the biggest question marks, or not question marks, what has been one of the biggest problems for the Milwaukee Bucks in their Giannis Antetokounmpo tenure? It has been their off-court or their half-court offense. They struggle mightily, or they have struggled with Giannis on the team. They have struggled mightily with their half-court offense because outside of Chris Middleton, they haven't really had a player that can create their own shot and be as reliable putting the ball on the ground and getting their own shot and catch and shoot. They haven't had a reliable self-offense creator outside of Chris Middleton. And with Chris Middleton being hurt the last, 2-3 years, it has really put a hindrance and really put a strain on the Milwaukee Bucks half-court offense. As great as Jrue Holiday is, and Jrue Holiday is one of the most underrated players in basketball. We'll talk about him when we talk about the Portland Trail Blazers. But Damian Lillard unlocks a part of the floor that the Bucks have struggled with, and that, of course, is the half-court offense. You have two players now that not only are on the NBA 75 list, but you have two players that will arguably go down as, if the NBA stopped today, let's say this, if the NBA stopped today, Damian Lillard and Giannis are first ballot Hall of Famers. Clear cut, no questions. If you do have questions and you haven't really been watching either one, you're also talking about two players that are franchise-changing players on one team. In the video I put out, I said the word prolific. When just thinking about the schemes and thinking about the offensive sets that this team can run, this Giannis, when we talk about the perfect complements for each other, I would say Giannis's perfect complement would probably be Steph Curry. When we talk about two players that can dominate two sides of the floor or two parts of the floor equally, I would say the perfect complement for Giannis is probably Steph. The second person I would think of immediately is Damian Lillard. I said that this offense and this team, at least this year, should be prolific because you have two unstoppable players. Damian Lillard playing on a team where he is the main focus in Portland for years. Last year he dropped 71 on a team. I started this episode with saying that when a player as good as Giannis starts publicly flirting with other teams, that usually means you have to get the ball rolling now. And there's no better player for the Milwaukee Bucks to get that ball rolling now. As far as we need to start moving players, or we need to start moving the star. But once you start flirting with or publicly flirting with other teams, you have to make moves to the organization. This is the perfect move that they could have made. I think in the short term, this has to make the Milwaukee Bucks the favorite, at least in the East. Outside of Boston, there is a lot of, and even in Boston, there's a lot of question marks with other Eastern Conference teams. Like what's going to happen with James Harden and Joel Embiid in Philly. Even in Boston, what's going to happen with Malcolm Brogdon? It looks like they're not okay. The Boston Celtics and Malcolm Brogdon aren't on the same page. Reports are saying that Jason Tatum is going to play a lot of point guard, which I don't know how successful that's going to be. How is Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown going to fit with a Kristaps Porzingis? There's a lot of question marks with the Boston Celtics. There's a lot of question marks with the Toronto Raptors. How are they going to fare now that Fred VanVleet is gone? And are they going to start the rebuild? Are they moving Pascal Siakam? The Bulls, are they ever going to get it together? Is it time for the Bulls to finally blow it up? There are so many question marks in the Eastern Conference that to me, it's the Milwaukee Bucks are the clear-cut favorites in the East. The only question I have right now is Milwaukee going to be the favorite? I know Caesar Sportsbooks and all the betting sites have them as favorites to win it all. But I still need to see what they look like on paper. I have absolutely no questions that Damian Lillard and Giannis are going to fit together. The question that I have is with the roster. You give up a Drew Holiday. You give up a Grayson Allen. Both of those players are very integral. Now, yes, I'm not saying you don't give them up if you have the opportunity to get Damian Lillard, but Damian Lillard is not he's not the best defender, and you give up a lot of defense, especially in the backcourt. And you give up depth. I think right now, as we speak, there's only two solid defenders on the Milwaukee Bucks, and that is, of course, Giannis and Brook Lopez. Now, Chris Middleton is a good defender, but he hasn't really been that good of a defender since his injuries started matriculating. So I don't know if he's ever going to get back to that defensive or reliable defensive player. So I want to see how they fare with, when they have to play a solid front court, or when they have to play, or a back court, or when they have to play maybe a Golden State or a Lakers or, something like that. But this Bucks team is going to be hella good. That's just what I got for you. This Bucks team is going to be incredible. And they're going to be, shouts out to Stephen A. Smith, they're going to be lethal, they're going to be prolific, they're going to be fast. This team is, because think about it, how are you, any given night, man, you can have Giannis go off, which he's done on several occasions. You can have Damian Lillard go off. You can have Chris Middleton go off. You can have all three go off. Man, this is, I said this before, man, when a superstar moves, this is seismic. It is such a seismic move, and it reverberates throughout the entire NBA or throughout the entire sports league, whichever star it is. And if Chris Middleton can get back to the Chris Middleton that was a underrated star, that was a very integral piece to the Milwaukee Bucks winning a championship. If Giannis can continue to be Giannis, which nobody thinks that he's not going to be, and if Damian Lillard can continue to be Damian Lillard, which nobody thinks he isn't going to be, I would be shocked if this Milwaukee. Not only would I be shocked, I'd be shocked, and to me, it would be a complete failure if this Milwaukee Bucks team doesn't at least make it to the NBA championship. That's the type of player that the Bucks are getting in Damian Lillard, and it is such a perfect marriage. The Bucks needed a point guard that can give you offense, especially in the half court, and that can take off the scoring pressure off of Giannis and Chris Middleton. Now, again, no offense, and this is not me taking shots at Jrue Holiday, but that's just Jrue. At least offensively, Damian Lillard is much, much better than Jrue Holiday. And this is a perfect marriage. Damian Lillard to the Milwaukee Bucks, and I'm excited to see, man. With trades like this, you also hear stories and you also hear reports, especially after it happens, about things that you wouldn't expect, or aspects of the trade, or aspects of the relationship between the player and the team that wasn't privy information before the trade. And with Damian Lillard getting traded out of Portland, you're hearing stories that, or reports that Damian Lillard was going to rescind his trade request, but the GM didn't want it rescinded. He didn't want Damian Lillard back. You're hearing reports that they asked Damian Lillard to sit out the last few games of the season because they wanted a better draft pick. You're hearing reports saying that Damian Lillard now wanted to come back to Portland, but they just didn't want him back. Every time I talk about Damian Lillard, I talk about that whole loyalty thing. And how that loyalty word is more of a crutch, is more of a weight than it is a positive when we talk about sports. Because an organization, a fan base, can always go back to that loyal word when a player feels that they aren't being treated or being compensated the way that they feel they should. And it's not just, when I say compensate, I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about talent. When a player as good as Damian Lillard is on your organization, I feel, you know what should happen? The same thing that's happening with Golden State should have happened with Portland. All we're hearing is, as great as Steph Curry is, that window is not open for long. So let's maximize this Steph Curry window. So you see them getting people, they're keeping Clay, they're keeping Draymond Green, they're getting someone like Chris Paul. They're getting players that can maximize this Steph Curry window. I'm not saying that they're ultimately going to win again, but they're trying their hardest to win now. And you can clearly see it. Portland never did that. Or if they tried to do that, they didn't do that well at all. And the situation, the issue that I have, and the issue that Damian Lillard ultimately had is, you see how good I am. You see how good Damian Lillard is arguably the best player the Portland Trailblazers have ever had. And they did a piss poor job at trying to maximize Damian Lillard's talents. And don't get it twisted, bro. Just because Damian Lillard requested a trade this offseason, they've wanted to move off of Damian Lillard way before then. But it's all about image. Nobody wants to be, especially, again, it goes back to that loyalty thing. Nobody wants to be the first one to move after someone has said, no, we're loyal to this person, or I want to be loyal to this person. That person doesn't ultimately then want to say, yeah, but I don't want to be with you. So when you look at what the Portland Trailblazers got, you get DeAndre Ayton, you get Tamani Kamara, you get Drew Holiday, you get a 2029 first round pick, and you get 2 pick swaps from the Bucks. What that tells me is they know. Oh, and of course, reports are saying that they're going to move off of Drew Holiday, which obviously, in my opinion, was the best piece that they could have got, or was the best piece that they got in this trade. That tells me that they understand that they don't want to. They're not competing now. I know you have Scoot Henderson, you have Shaden Sharp, you have Anthony Simons, you have a young core. And there is nobody more perfect to add to a young core than more youth. That's what you see the Detroit Pistons do. They got Jalen Duran, they got Cade Cunningham, they have Jaden Ivey. Like, they just keep adding youth. Drew Holiday would be perfect if he was at that point of his career where he couldn't really contribute to a championship team, kind of like, or if Drew Holiday went to, like, let's say the LA Lakers, he would be a monumental move. It would be a monumental move for the Los Angeles Lakers. Eric Gordon goes to the Clippers. It's a big move, but it's not that big. That's kind of what I'm talking about. And I know Eric Gordon just caught a stray, sort of, but I don't mean it no disrespect. But the Portland Trailblazers, it's a win-lose-win if you look at it like that. But the win is you get off the player that you wanted to get off, and you don't look bad in this situation at all. I think is what took so long as far as this whole Damian Lillard and Portland Trailblazers marriage to finally dissolve. What took so long is no one wanted to look bad in this situation. I think when they traded CJ McCollum, they also wanted to trade Damian Lillard, but they just couldn't because they would look horrible. Nobody wanted to look bad. Damian Lillard didn't want to look bad. The Portland Trailblazers didn't want to look bad. And honestly, sports is a business. And there is such thing as good business and bad business. And where I can't absolve Damian Lillard is Damian Lillard did practice in a little bit of bad business. I'm not saying it was totally bad, but Damian Lillard did practice in a little bit of bad business. Because when you request a trade, the hardest thing to do, or the worst thing that you can do, is not only request a trade publicly, but request a trade publicly to only one team. And then your manager, your business partners come out and say, yo, if he gets traded to another team outside of that one team, he's not going to report to camp. He's not going he's going to request another trade because he just wants to play for that one team. That is bad business because you're putting your current employer in a tough situation. Because now you can't really get anything of value because teams around the NBA know that the player that you're trying to trade doesn't want to be there. So it's like, why am I going to give up so much? Because the player that you're trying to trade doesn't even want to be with you. 2, now it's like, all right, why am I going to give you that much as a player that said he doesn't want to be with you, doesn't even want to be on our team? So if I'm the Washington Wizards, why would I give up anything of value? Because I know if I do have a shot to get Damian Lillard, he's not going to come. He's not going to report. He has said that. And 3, if I am Damian Lillard said he wants to go to. Why would I give up all my assets? Because the player that I'm trying to trade for that said he wants to be here, said he wants to be here. So why would I give up as much? Because at the end of the day, he's going to end up here. So we thought. But that is bad business. That, again, you're hearing a lot of reports come out saying that Damian Lillard widened his base to now Milwaukee and Brooklyn, which I think that would be insane if Damian Lillard was traded to Milwaukee and then didn't show up and say, hey, no, I said I want to go to Miami. So if I don't go to Miami, I'm not going to, if I'm not in Miami, I'm not showing up. That would be insane. Because it's Giannis, you know what I'm saying? But for the Trailblazers, let's get back on track. For the Trailblazers, this move signifies that they understand they're going to be bad next year. DeAndre Ayton is a good player, but he's not a franchise changer, at least at this point of his career. And with them moving Drew Holiday for young assets and expiring contracts and draft picks, they are solely looking into the future, not really in the present, because the present, they really have no shot to win. Especially when you talk about their best player currently, more than likely is a player they just got out of the draft. And we're not talking about like LeBron or something. Don't get me wrong, Scoot Henderson is good. He's a really good player, but he's not one of those players you can just win instantly. And not just that, the NBA isn't really, because of how wide the talent gap, or not gap, the talent net is in the NBA, it's very hard to just have a player that can come in and your team is ultimately, like the 2003 Cleveland Cavaliers, they weren't that good. LeBron was good, but they weren't that good. I think Victor Wembanyama is going to be great for the Spurs. I just don't think this year is going to matriculate into like championship caliber. You know what I'm saying? Because there's so much talent in the NBA. This Portland Trailblazers team, they're not going to be good next year. They're going to be okay to watch. They're going to be fun to watch. Scoot Henderson has that Shaden Sharp. They have that infectious, I want to watch them energy that they have. And of course, DeAndre Ayton is still a good player, but as far as winning, nah. And like I said, it doesn't matter what you get unless you get a star for a star, which almost never happens in trades. This is an official reset for the Portland Trailblazers. They've been trying to reset for a while now, but this is the official reset. Because you didn't get a star back then. DeAndre Ayton is not a star. He's a good player. He's not a star. And he's definitely not on a star caliber or on the level that Damian Lillard is. So this is an official reset for an organization. And yeah, gone are the days where we're looking for the Portland Trailblazers to be make any noise in anywhere because they don't have anybody right now. The team that I kind of understand what they're doing, but I don't know if they're doing it right, and that is the Phoenix Suns in this aspect of the trade. The Phoenix Suns received Grayson Allen, Keenan Johnson, Nasir Little, and Joseph Nurkic. Now, the Phoenix Suns is the only team right now that I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound crazy, but just hear me out. The Phoenix Suns is the only team, in my opinion, that got considerably worse after this trade. Now, I know you say, wait, Portland Trail Blazers, just talked about them. They're right there. The The Portland Trailblazers, they knew they were going to get worse. That's kind of what they want to do. They're kind of doing the same thing that the Washington Wizards are doing right now. You want to be as bad as possible, or you want to be bad because you can try to build through the draft and try to build up for, and the only really way to do that is to reset. And you can't reset the organization with a star because it just doesn't work. So while yes, obviously the team that is drastically worse after this trade is the Portland Trailblazers, but they want to be worse. The Phoenix Suns don't want to be worse. And I was actually also shocked that the Phoenix Suns were in this deal because the Phoenix Suns literally just helped their biggest Eastern Conference competitor in getting. Trust and believe, if Phoenix was not in this trade would not have happened. So the Phoenix Suns literally just helped their biggest Eastern Conference competitor get the prize. And now you can argue and you can debate which team is better between the Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks because of Damian Lillard. And the Phoenix Suns ultimately helped with getting Damian Lillard. Now, the Suns have been very loud this offseason, but not in a bad way. Like, they've made a lot of moves. Of course, you got Bradley Beal. You got a lot of players, and this is such a top-heavy team. And offensively, this team is going to be arguably the best offensive team in basketball. And honestly, I will go as far as saying, if everything clicks the way it needs to click, this can be one of the greatest offensive teams in NBA history. When you look at the names, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. So what the Phoenix Suns did was they tried to build, and what they've been doing ever since getting Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal, they've been trying to build their bench. Their bench has been devoid of defense and honestly reliable players. They have some good names on the bench, like they have T.J. Warren, they have Terrence Ross, they have Josh Okogie, who's probably going to start. Damian Lee, like they have they have some okay names, but they haven't really. Their goal now is to try to build out their bench and try to build out depth. Now I understand that they had to get off of DeAndre Ayton. It just seeing what they got and seeing what they gave up. Obviously, DeAndre Ayton. That really shows me that the relationship between the Suns organization and DeAndre Ayton was not repairable. Because you got a worse player than DeAndre Ayton in Jusuf Nurkic. I understand probably offensively he's better. We talk about setting screens and a low post presence. Offensively, your Nurkic is good, or possibly better than DeAndre Ayton, but it's not by that much. Defensively, for sure, no, not. Neither one of them is prime Dikembe Mutombo defensively, but I will say that DeAndre Ayton is an overall better player than Jusuf Nurkic. And honestly, when we talk about injuries and availability, DeAndre Ayton is much better. So while the big name in this trade for the Suns is Jusuf Nurkic, I think that they feel better about getting Grayson Allen, who's a defender and who's one of the best catch and shoot players in basketball. Kenan Johnson, who is a high flyer and was a good player for Portland. Nasir Little, who I don't know if he's going. That's a North Carolina product, by the way, but I don't know if he's going to be much of a focal point or much of a key piece to this team, seeing as though he wasn't even a key piece to the Portland Trailblazers when they needed him. So the Suns, they to me got worse out of this trade, but that really only means they desperately want to get off DeAndre Ayton. And I think they've been trying to get off DeAndre Ayton, and then they realized how many times, or the market for DeAndre Ayton is lukewarm at best. So they got the best trade possible, and they set. You can obviously see they set out to build their depth, and that's exactly what they did. So this again. This trade is something that just reverberates throughout the entire NBA. And what's interesting is, to me, there are so many storylines going into. I'm not just going to look at the whole season. I'm going to look at this NBA Finals, right? Imagine if Milwaukee makes it. You have Giannis, who is arguably the best player in basketball. You have Damian Lillard, would be his first time making it to the NBA Finals. And look at the storylines that we see, or look at the storylines that we can see. They go against the Lakers. Is this LeBron James, Anthony Davis last run? And then you'll have Giannis against Anthony Davis. You'll have Damian Lillard against LeBron. Like, it's, what if it's Golden State? Will Damian Lillard finally beat Steph Curry in the playoffs? And is this Golden State's last run? Can this firepower from Golden State outlast the half-court offense and the firepower that the Milwaukee Bucks have? Hell, what if the Denver Nuggets make it? Arguably the two best players in basketball, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo. You have Jamal Murray, Damian Lillard. Like, there's so many interesting storylines. The Phoenix Suns. KD, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. You're going. It's the team that helped the other team get their star. Because again, this trade would not have happened if it wasn't for the Suns. So now you're playing against a team that you pretty much helped get to the finals. And this is a finals rematch of what, 2021? So this is going to be a fascinating year, all because Damian Lillard gets traded to the Milwaukee Bucks. One player, change the water reverberations from this puddle, from this splash, is felt seismically throughout the entire league. I said there was one other team that we need to talk about. And this is one of the first times in a while. Now, this isn't the first time ever, but this is one of the first times in a while that the team that got the star is probably not as fascinating as the team that didn't end up getting him. In fact, the team that didn't end up getting him probably gets more coverage than the team that ultimately got the star, and that is the Miami Heat. Again, all this, the only reason why the Miami Heat are in this entire equation is because Damian Lillard was adamant in saying that the only team that he wanted to play for was the Miami Heat. The word of the day is spite. Because that, to me, is the thing that is ringing loud when we talk about this trade. Especially when we talk about the trade that could have been between Portland and Miami. Because don't get it twisted. And this is how you kind of know that this is out of spite. When you look at what the Trailblazers got, almost every single package I have seen from the Miami Heat is better than what the Portland Trailblazers got ultimately. Outside of DeAndre Ayton, who's probably the better player, you would have gotten more, and you would have gotten an abundance more from the Miami Heat. But this is where the word spite comes from. And I think that a lot of this is not only Portland's fault. There's three parts of this, obviously, that is the reason why Damian Lillard is not in Miami is for three reasons. Damian Lillard, the GM for Portland, and Miami's arrogance. Again, I think most of it stems from the Portland Trailblazers GM. I don't think he did not want to seem weak in this situation. He did not want to seem like the person that did not have the power in this situation, which ultimately he didn't have as much as he wanted, obviously, because he's not the star. But Damian Lillard was under contract for, I think, another, 3-4 years. So you sign an extension and then request a trade. That's the same thing Bradley Beal did. If Damian Lillard would have went to the Miami Heat, I think that it would have added to a dangerous precedent. And that is stars signing new long-term deals and then immediately wanting to or requesting a trade and denying the services of the team that they just signed the contract to. You see, no one questions how good Damian Lillard is. But we're also talking about a business. The NBA is a business. And signing contracts and ultimately reneging on those contracts without fulfilling them is bad business for anyone. And I don't think the Portland Trailblazers wanted to be the team, another victim of that situation. So the Portland Trailblazers had a little bit of spite towards Damian Lillard because it's like, yo, you're not going to dictate what we do. You're not going to sign a contract and then pretty much force our hand. That's not going to happen. That's what they would probably think. That's not going to happen. We are going to move on our terms. We are going to do what's best for our team. That is, of course, the Portland Trailblazers. So I think a little bit of spite was definitely towards Damian Lillard when we talk about the Portland Trailblazers. A little bit of spite also was towards the arrogance of Miami Heat. When we talk about Miami Heat and stars, and when we talk about, Pat Riley, the statement that you always hear is Pat Riley always gets his guy. You hear that all the time. You heard that with LeBron James. You heard that with Damian Lillard signing contracts. You heard that with Chris Bosh. You heard that with Alonzo Mourning. You heard that with Jimmy Butler. Pat Riley always gets his guy. You know who else hears that? And you know who else feels that way? Pat Riley and the Miami Heat. And it goes back to a point that I said in the beginning. When you're Damian Lillard and you say that I only want to go to one place, that one place hears you as well and isn't going to break the bank to get you. Now, I do think that that's a little bit of arrogance because, again, some of the names that you heard that they were holding out on, or they were holding out or wanted to keep, Damian Lillard is much, much better. When you have a player like Damian Lillard, especially when you saw exactly why you struggled last year in the finals, I would think that those players were good as gold. Now, you heard reports saying that they were asking for Bam and Jimmy Butler, or Jimmy Butler now. But when you want a Tyler Hero, when you want a Novak Jokic, when you want a Duncan Robinson or a bunch of draft picks, take them. That's Damian Lillard. We'll figure it out. And now you sit here today, the player that said he wanted to be with one franchise, or he wanted to be traded to one franchise, and that was your franchise. Your franchise didn't do enough to get him. And now you're the outside looking in. Not only that, they sent him to the team that you beat the first round of the playoffs last year. A team that we've never really seen collapse the way that the Milwaukee Bucks collapsed. But now you add Damian Lillard into that equation. And you don't have to give up Chris Middleton or Brook Lopez. The Miami Heat are now much worse because Gabe York is gone or Gabe Vincent, I'm sorry, Gabe Vincent is gone, and a lot of the pieces that were important to them to make this playoff run are gone. And older. I mean, Kyle Lowry, he didn't play much in the playoffs because he just wasn't that productive for the team. And you had it right there, man. You had the prize was Damian Lillard. At the end of the day, the prize in this whole thing is Damian Lillard. And all you had to do was make 2 free throws. Hypothetically, obviously. Or metaphorically, let's say. All you had to do was make 2 free throws, and you couldn't do that. And now, what's ironic is, if they would have got Damian Lillard, and honestly, outside of Giannis, like if we talk about the team aspect, I think that Miami was a better destination for Damian Lillard if we talk about team aspect. But Damian Lillard now plays with arguably the best player in basketball.